do you think the BBI initiative has been Wanjiku-driven? Gabriel doesn't think so. Joy doesn't think so.
Now, look, I want to reflect or to respond to that, or, tying it to the Kiambu case, the finance bill case, you remember. And Justice Odunga put it quite, clearly. What is it that amounts to public participation? All right? It's very clear there in that ruling. Now, if it's a question of the general public or the populace of Kenya feeling that they have been invited to share their thoughts and views with regard to what kind of changes should we have in the proposed review of the Constitution, then fact is every Kenyan has not felt invited. That is a fact. When Boss Sholei says that they have been meeting up in hotels, etc., but it's a fact. You see, in this country, we must not be averse to truth and facts. I'm not saying that whatever BBI team, the task force has been doing or is doing is improper. No, it's proper, it's fine. But what we are saying is that every common citizen should feel that there is room for them to come and share thoughts or make presentations that will make this country better. Now, why is it that somebody like Dr. Kurokot and the Third Way Alliance, who've come up with the Punguza Mzigo initiative, with, like Gabriel said, very fine thoughts in there. Now, if we say that the burden of governance and representation is too big on the shoulders of our economy, then what's the problem by saying that, hey, even if we do not agree, for example, that we reduce this number of legislators to 149, for example, okay, can we just get to have them at 250? It's a question of opening ourselves to thinking, to views. That's not what we need. The issue of hurling stones and epithets at the court does not help us. Constitutions are living documents, which means that we must use every opportunity whenever it arises to make it better, strengthen the arm, strengthen the other organs of the living document. It is ours. And remember, even this one that we have today, we said we give it unto ourselves, we adopt it. When Joy said that she was on the no side, and some people are saying that 20% of this document was bad, that 20% actually has never been measured. I don't know which mathematician actually established that 20% is a problem of this constitution. But the thing is this: we must bring ourselves to a fact that, yes, we may need to review this document. Just before we came back on air, Gabriel had said something, that if at all it's a question of accommodating every person who has contested in a presidential election into governance, into office, I mean, really, it's not a question of you doing as a favor to run for political office. Look, magnanimity in greatness is something that all of us want, that a leader should not be just thumping because they want political office. Leading democracy, the US, for example, when Hillary Clinton lost, all right, the presidency by just the electoral college votes, but the popular vote, she got it. If it were in this country of ours, my motherland, the kind of chaos that would have been documented would be something for poets and historians. Now, let's face it. It's not a must that if you came second, for example, you're an opposition leader, that you must be part of the executive, whatever. Well, we can say that maybe you have a position in parliament as leader of opposition. But it's not a must. Today, Hillary Clinton is in the cold, a celebrated leader. It's not a must that you must occupy office. This thrill that we have for occupation of offices is what is killing us in this country.
I think Gabriel's exact words were, we may as well rely on Ipsos Innovate to tell us who the most popular and second most popular candidate is, so that we just install them as president and PM.
There's something to be said for democracy. Democracy is majority having their way and the minority having their say. That's what democracy is. It's not a perfect system, but it's what we have. That there will always be somebody who will come out on top, and the one who comes out second has to concede to the one who's come out on top. What we have now, I find, is an anomaly. And the problem with it is that our system of government, like now what we have, the parliamentary system, you're supposed to have a majority party and a minority party. And the minority party is supposed to be shadowing what the majority party is doing. So when you're the one who's offering checks and balances, when you're in parliament, if they offer a policy, you can offer an alternative policy. And Kenyans can take the benefit of, okay, looking at both and seeing what would move us forward. But what we have now is everybody is singing from the same song sheet. And the problem with that is we are not making progress as a country because our leaders are stuck in this time warp. For a long time, a big criticism of mine I've had with the political system is that it is personality driven. Like even now, if you look like you're not 100% BBI, you're construed as you're not supporting the president, you're fighting the president, you're not supporting Honorable Raila. And that's not necessarily true. It's just that we have to come to a place as Kenyans where we understand this thing can be done, but how can it be done? If you ask me, for example, constitutional review should be a matter of it's progressive, so that what can be done in parliament, let's do that. Let's just clean it up slowly. Let's go by line by line, pole, 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 pole. When you get to the ones that need a referendum, then they say, you know what, put a pin on it, let's do one referendum for everything. So that by the time you're getting to doing a referendum, you have several questions that are well considered. They have been discussed in parliament, they've been discussed in the counties, they've been out in the public discourse, and there's a sort of agreed position. This thing of our leaders imagining that they can come up with a position and tell us that this is what is good for you. You know what, it's like what I do with my children. This medicine is good for you. Open your mouth, take it, because if you don't take it, this is good. They have to realize, Kenya imekuwa nyingine. People don't just take it because you're the leaders, you have said it. Our leaders have been embarrassed before. We've seen even in parliament with the MPs refusing to toe party lines. People are changing. And if our leaders do not realize that the type of politics that now Kenyans are willing to accept is changing, they will be very embarrassed. Can you imagine if we kick out Ekuru with the bathwater? Ekuru not being the baby, with the bathwater. And then we decide we are going BBI. And then it's put to a vote. And then first turnout is 20%. And even that 20% defeated resoundingly. What will that be saying of the confidence that people have in our leaders? Our leaders need to also learn to read the times and to be wise in how they approach things. There's a day, if Angaine stood up, all the Merus did not care what else had gone on. Angaine has spoken, we're all towing the lines. If Mudavadi Senior Moses stood up, the Luyas did not need to know, they just stood. Those days have changed. This millennial generation, the ones who are now taking their ideas now, even we, our parents, try to tell them things and they look at you, they're like, why? If you try and say it's because they're mommy, you're told that's not a good reason. People have changed. Our politics has changed. Our constitution needs amending, yes. But let us do it systematically in a way that makes sense, not rushed, not trying to create positions for people, not trying to cover up things. Because if you ask Kenyans, what ails Kenyans when it comes to elections? Why do we fight? They know. People, like now, yesterday I saw in the news, Mau has been brought up again. It's a conversation. Those are the two things that are triggers. And these politicians know it. Hapo normally ukiosha kibiriti, kunatokea moto. Kenyans need to just get wise and say, you know what, we're not falling for that no more. We are not. And if our leaders don't realize that, they will not end well. And some of these leaders have such a distinguished career, they need to manage themselves that when they end well. You don't want to end like a Mugabe, where you've led a country for, you've had a long stellar career that's ended by the last 10 years of madness.
Okay.
Don't get
all right.
that.
Okay, Javas, Gabriel, I think. I don't want you to be overshadowed, but let me just pause before you respond to that. First of all, do you agree with Joy that this 2022 time ticking clock that we've placed on the referendum process is misguided? And then secondly, when we started down this road, it was about inclusion. Right. And you know, so the fear is that if we don't sort out these issues now, then like you said, 2022 is okay, a ticking time bomb.
As a matter of fact, if any person makes a Kenyan believe that it's a ticking time bomb, that's flawed thinking. And you know, and I'll get stances from what Java said. We really do not need to scratch everything and start on a clean slate. We can actually build upon, you know, what BBI comes up with, what Punguza Mzigo comes up with, all right? Because the last thing we want to do is to actually put a time limit on a constitution. Like Joy said, it's a live document. It is an instrument that tells us this is how we want to be governed. So we must be very alive to that. What I do not want us to do is to demonize things that we do not know. At some point, if you remember historically back in the day, we were saying, so-and-so akisoma iko sawa. And that was a tragedy. What I want us to do is the leaders of goodwill to take up a document and say, guys, this is the 20% that we said was not sitting pretty. Can we work on it without watering down what BBI will come up with or without watering what Punguza Mzigo has come up with? The fact that we've started talking on political tones on a very alive document like our constitution actually sends a bad picture and actually sends a bad signal where we are heading in matters future. What I would like to see, what I told you, is not that I'm against BBI, but I'm against any review or any audit that will not be Wanjiku driven. You know why? Because it will be cosmetic. We will be back where we are.
But what would make it Wanjiku driven?
Now, the question you asked about inclusivity, that should be it. Let it not be seen as being pushed by certain individuals in what some politicians are calling big hotels. All right? Let it capture matters that when we sit down, we will say, it is not about positions. It is not about hitting out on people's anxiety or telling them if this does not happen, then this is what will happen. No. Let it be a key to how this country will be governed or how we will govern ourselves in the next 40, 60 years. You see, this issue of looking at the next cycle, election cycle, is what actually is becoming detrimental to this country. Why can we not sit and we know that we can change this document? All right? It is not static. It's not something built on stone. Olive. Okay. Why can we not just say, forget the time? What is more important today? What is more crucial today? Are we taking care of that? Because that is what is Wanjiku driven. Go anywhere. Like when Kibaki came in and said, we can afford free primary education. It was not for the children of Central alone, right? It was the entire country. When the Big Four agenda came into play, and we were talking about matters healthcare, that was going to solve the issues of health in that Kamashinani hospital. That is Wanjiku driven. When we are talking about food security, that is Wanjiku driven. Because it is talking to the hearts of so many people who die, some actually, who die of hunger every year. That is the conversation that we should be having. But when you sit down and say, no, I think...
This is how we should share out power.
You know, that will actually not augur well. And you know what? It will then take us back. And this is why I like the Mandela moment. And I keep talking about the Mandela moment. Javas has had this before. The Mandela moment is where we think that this guy who is going to be a life president of South Africa, what does he do? He says one term is enough. You know why? Because he has provided direction. And then he tells us that it's not how long you serve, it is how well you serve. That should be the emblem of any leader. This country should not just say, you know, if so-and-so is not going to be in the ballot, if so-and-so is not going to be in the ballot, it's going to be chaos. What happens 30 years from now when those people and those individuals are not there?
Okay. Javas, I cut you short earlier.
Yeah, I've said it on record. It is just a theater of egos and legacy, this referendum thing. Let me call everything by its name. Now, look, today, if we were to go to the referendum with the Punguza Mzigo initiative, do you know that the banner of constitutional reform in this country will go with the Kuro Court? The thunder of that reform title will have been stolen from Raila Odinga. All right? And that is why, let me tell you one thing, on record, Raila Odinga will not allow Punguza Mzigo initiative to go anywhere. It is a legacy issue as well for Uhuru Kenyatta. If at all President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga under the BBI, which of course they are breathing life behind, were to provide recommendations for constitutional review, and then we head to a referendum, and then we have a new supreme law of this land, it will go on Kenya's recorded history. During Kenyatta's time and Raila Odinga, we reviewed the constitution to have this. It's about legacy, all right? Now, the other thing is this. You've heard even from the individuals in Migori saying that who is Ekuru Aukot to propose a review of the constitution? It is an ego thing, all right? All right? So that, as a matter of fact, the thing is this. Chances are Punguza Mzigo initiative may not see light of day, all right? And not because the proposals there in are bad. The 9 critical issues are very good, a couple of them actually, I would say. But because other politicians are looking at the Punguza Mzigo initiative as a Molotov cocktail that will dismember their egos and the political legacy they want to leave behind, they will not permit it to see light of day.
Okay,
that's just it.
There's something Joy said, but I'm not sure I agree with that after listening to those views from Migori County. But what is happening, Martin Maura? We need to hear from people in Murang'a. She said times have changed, you know, and the political powers that be need to read the leaves, so to speak, the tea leaves. But, I mean, I listened to those guys in Migori, and it's like Raila has read the document for them, and he has told them it is bad, and therefore it is bad. There's no need to read it. Do you see that changing?
Well, we've come so far as a country, and times have changed. People are changing, but our politicians are not. And that's part of what Joy said. And they must now, they are trying to play catch up, but of course their speed is terribly slow. But the thing is this, we need to realize that the free will of a people, especially in matters of politics in this country, has taken a different tangent. Now, time is going to come where politicians will have to listen to the people, not the other way around as it's been happening for the longest time since our independence. Even when we went to the last referendum, the people were listening to the politicians. They are telling the people, this is what we want, and this is what I think is good for this country, and we bought it. We swallowed it hook, line, and sinker, and that's why we're here. Then again, they have this chance to give us another hook, line, and sinker that we need to swallow again. Now, I think time has come where we need to see that even an 18-year-old who's just come of age, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, can have an equal opportunity to discuss political issues, referendum, because this country belongs even to the 18-year-old.
Okay.
And that's what Joy was talking about.
So simply put, tunasema punda amechoka.
The demographic is changing, and I keep using what we saw at the Law Society as an example. For the longest time, when we're electing a chairman, ballots used to be sent in the mail. We tick them in our offices, we mail them back, and they write us and tell us, oh, we counted your votes, and now so-and-so is your chairman. And we'd go for a nice annual dinner, and that would be it. These days, Bana, we hold campaigns like I ran for office. And after a while, I asked myself, what did I get myself into? Because it's like national politics. You have to go around the country. You're hosting events. You are turning up. You are shaking. You're kissing babies and blessing people. It got to a place where you have to pander to the different demographics. We're going to our annual conference. The annual migration of lawyers is happening next week. And you should see the program. There's a women's breakfast caucus. There's an in-house council caucus. There's a young lawyers dinner. What am I saying? There's a time things used to be simpler. And we just used to listen to whoever was in charge. People came and said, I'm a lawyer just as much as you are. This is a person who's 1 year post-admission. But like my LLB and your LLB are the same thing. And because I am a lawyer and I also have a P105 number, I must be heard. Those of us who are a bit hesitant find ourselves staring at this monster called young lawyer. And that's what's happening with these politicians. Our generation followed our parents and were a bit pliable. But I've used the example of my children. These guys are turning 18, they're 21. You see them walking around and they own the world. These are guys who are not looking at 200 bob. What is 200 bob? They have grown up with parents who drop them at school. It's not like us who suffered to go to school. These guys were dropped and were picked up, and you were not dropped, you had a school bus. These guys are not thinking the same. These millennials are the ones who are looking at people. You come and tell us we go to Uhuru Park to do what exactly?
But that's my question. That's my question. I mean, do we really expect them to come out and make their voices heard beyond Twitter?
The thing is this, we also have something in this country called a youth bulge. If you look at the statistics, these youth are way, way more than we oldies.
Right.
And we oldies are actually slowly fading away. And if we do not realize that the first time Raila Odinga was running in this country, the first time Uhuru was running in this country, they were running on a very different platform. I mean, Uhuru's name was enough to get him a nomination, just his name. Right now, whose name is enough to get you anything in this country? Even if his son came and decided, no, he wants to be nominated, like, just because your father was president. For them, it means absolutely nothing. And that's what I mean. There are those of us who will always be diehards. President ni president and we must salute. Akitana unasimama, akikohoa unaitika. But there are those who are looking and they're like, why is the president pushing us off the road? Those are the people now the politicians need to understand. They're actually more than those of us who would stand up and, I mean, you would stand up and pay attention. And if they don't realize that, that's why I was saying, you could end up going to a referendum and be soundly embarrassed because there's people who don't have that shine. They're not starstruck by our politicians. But at the end of the day, you asked a very important question. What would make this process Wanjiku driven?
Okay.
The fact that Ekuru managed to get 1.2 million signatures, whether they actually signed or they just gave him their details, but the fact that 1.2 million people said, you know what, I think it's a good idea, that tells you people actually want the mzigo to be punguzwad. That's something that they have communicated. Right now, talk to somebody, they'll tell you they don't like corruption. Ekuru has slipped in something in there about corruption.
Yes.
Ask any Kenyan, they'll tell you the cost of living, the cost of doing business in Kenya is too high. Those are things, if you just listen to the general parlance, it doesn't have to be that Wanjiku comes up with the idea. Just walk in the streets. Like, for example, what Javas was saying, in fact, is attributable to Honorable Sholei. When you're in big hotels, there's some people who wouldn't make past the security check. But you walk to bus station, sit down somewhere and you're eating your fruit salad with your toothpick and have a conversation with those guys. They'll tell you what they want. Kenyans actually know what they want. I just want to be able to put food on my table. I want to be able to know that my check is going to come through if I do work for the government. I want to be able to take my kids to school. That's what they want. Okay. And they want to have leaders who actually think about them and not about themselves. So when you look at Parliament, like now, Parliament is the boogeyman. You guys sit down, you decide you want a night allowance to go out and do kazi ya shetani usiku. We don't want to pay you a night allowance. No, we don't want to pay for your 2-3 spouses. All of us are dealing with our one wife and a few gashungwas. You deal with your one wife and deal with the other gashungwas. That's what Kenyans want. They don't want to pay for people's lavish lifestyles. And if our leaders had that and were sacrificial enough to say, you know what, from today, we as MPs, we will take our salaries. Yeah. We will not do 16 sittings. And they punguza the mzigo themselves. Nobody will be clamoring for anything. Just listen to Kenyans.
Okay, you made reference to Okot's proposals as far as corruption is concerned and salaries. On corruption, he says corruption and theft of public resources cases to be tried within 30 days and all appeals exhaustively concluded within 15 days. And also in terms of the remuneration, he says cap the salaries of elected leaders to a maximum consolidated pay of 500,000 for the president and 300,000 for members of parliament per month. Now, Gabriel, I'd just like to clarify that when she said us oldies, she was gesturing towards you. And then also make the point that Joy and Chavas are advocates and Gabriel is an aspiring advocate. But Gabriel, you've heard about this Super Alliance business. Yes. I read about it in the paper yesterday. Yes. Is it a creation of the media? Is it barroom talk, or do you think there's credence to those reports?
Well, I think, you know, what has been going on actually is what has driven people to think that way. And, you know, the coming together, you know, between President Uhuru and bringing in Raila Odinga as part of the Building Bridges initiative, as much as it was a good thing, has gone through a lot of misinterpretation, if you will. You remember when it just happened, Kalonzo Musyoka and Mudavadi and Wetangula actually read a lot of malice, and they were all over. And they also said, we want our own handshake as well. And it ended up being. And then after that, politically, we moved to seeing Baba. Everybody was given some sort of appointment, saying Senior Moi. So it became some sort of a class. And I believe probably that's where the media is reading it from. There could be something probably, or there could be something created by the media. We never know. But that is not to say that that alliance cannot happen. It may actually happen, right? It has happened before. So, I mean, what's one more time, if you will? But back to this referendum
and its
issue.
alliances.
This referendum issue, and I'll repeat it again here. I was having a conversation and somebody, a very old person, actually put it across and said, you know, I would like people to ask this question. A good referendum is where the set of laws that eventually, when we pass it, hoping that whatever comes will be passed, is one that would put a leader of the day in a position that he or she may be comfortable if the roles were reversed. You get? If today I am leading Javas, I should be comfortable if Javas tomorrow becomes my leader because of the laws that I set there. But if those laws are only going to protect me and my family, what will happen when he becomes a leader? All right? So I told you when
And that
we
is where the
began-
do or die comes in.
Exactly. I told you when we began. We need to move away from excitement. Oh, referendum, yeah, it must come, it must come. What are we selling in a referendum? Whether it's BBI, and I would really hope, because there's one thing I know for sure, this one nobody needs to tell me. The people that were on the newspapers yesterday, their faces, and I can name them one by one, whether it's President Uhuru, whether it's Honorable Raila Odinga, whether it's Kalonzo Musyoka, whether it's Mudavadi, Wetangula, or Deputy President William Ruto, there's one thing I can tell you without fear of contradiction, that all these gentlemen love this country to the hilt. They care for this country. So the question is, and this is why we need to keep pushing them, this referendum, who is it speaking to? That is the question that we need to continually pose. Because if they really, like I told you, their love for country is unquestionable, then they will do the right thing for Wanjiku.
Okay. Javas, have the lines already been drawn? We haven't seen the BBI proposal, yeah? But have the lines already been drawn? Because when you hear Ndindi Nyoro refer to the, now the Building Bridges Initiative as the Blue Band Initiative, and it's already gotten mixed up in my head. I'm like, wait, what was it? Yeah, when you hear him refer to it as the Blue Band Initiative, he's sort of diminishing it. So have the lines already been drawn? Has Ruto already made up his mind about the process? Is he the new position?
Well, first, the BBI has not provided any flesh for me to sink my teeth in. And I'm told that they are going to retreat and then work on something, or maybe patch up something. Maybe it's been written already, like
You
Joy
think I
said.
believe within a month they should be making, submitting something to the president?
Now, the thing is this. All this, even as we go to the referendum, if at all we head there or get there, as it's been determined, thing is this, it's all politics. Who should occupy the next executive office and who should not? And then fears. And then in the world of politics, apparitions. There are people who see this BBI as a very sharp dagger coming for them. Some know that, you see, the moment we go to a referendum, it is a decapitative exercise on their politics. Others see that as a lifeline. So now, because of those fears, because of huge political interests, and everybody trying to secure their political future and fortunes, they have already taken sides. Actually, you will be surprised, no doubt, that the issue of the referendum, if at all it happens before the election, we know it to be a mini election. will just be waiting to go to make confirmations in the general election. So, as you've seen, people moving from one part of the country to the other, they are beginning actually campaigns for the general election. They are taking sides. And look, if you look at, for example, even what Gabriel talked about, the frontal appearance of the newspaper yesterday, it's just been shaped up about who is on one side against others on the other side. So now, question is this: what kind of river divides these people? Is it a question of really the love for country and saying that, you know what, the kind of reforms that we are pushing for are reforms to make this country better? Or is the kind of divide that is purely driven and sustained by selfishness? The answer to that question, you know it as much as I do.
Okay.